I want to talk to you about doubt. Actually, what I really want to talk to you about faith. But the reality is you can't talk about faith unless you talk about doubt also. Some people say to me, well, you have faith and I have reason. And I say to them, I have reason, and because I have reason, I can draw conclusions on the basis of evidence. And therefore I have faith. The two are not in opposition to one another. Everybody believes. It is said of human beings that we are believing animals. The real question here is, what do we believe and why do we believe it? And do we have the freedom to come to our own understanding of what is or is not true? So let's try and pick our way through what we mean by faith. When we're children, our parents tell us things, and we naturally believe them. That's how we acquire knowledge. But as we grow up, we start to question what we've believed. Similarly, we might go to a mosque or a temple or a church, and as children we're told all sorts of stories. And then as we grow up, we start to make sense of the world in a new way. And ideally, we start to ask questions. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't question anything, you should just blindly believe. But if you blindly believe, how do you possibly know that what you're believing is true? There is, in Christianity, a long tradition that goes all the way back to Jesus and St. Paul. St. Paul taught us this: test everything, keep what is good. And the testing things is the very essence of how we acquire knowledge. It is because of that culture of testing that the spirit of scientific inquiry rose in Christian Europe and not elsewhere. So, when it comes to God, we need to be like the scientist. We need to ask ourselves, what is the evidence for God? What is the evidence for what He's like? How can I find out? How can I experience it? Because experience is the same as experiment. The Bible says, taste and see that the Lord is good. So imagine there's a meal in front of you. Smells good. Taste it. Oh, tastes good. Now we want to eat the rest of the meal. And God is saying, treat me like that. Taste and see that I am good. Now, who is it who is speaking to us? It's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the God of the Old Testament and the New. It's the God who revealed Himself throughout history, starting with Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, David, the prophets. But the ultimate revelation of what God is like is in Jesus. The Bible says that Jesus is the visible representation of the invisible God. And that is why He is called the Son of God. Because when you look at Jesus, you see what the Father is like. And Jesus constantly called God the Father. He also called Him His Father, because God can be known personally. God, in fact, has created us so that we can know Him and He can know us. God wants to be our friend and calls us His friends. Let's ask ourselves a very simple question. If we believe that God created the heavens and the earth, and I surely do, then the question is, why? Why all this vastness? And And the conclusion that I've come to, and the conclusion that the Bible gives, is very simple. God is creating a community of love in which He is our God and we are His people. And although on this earth our lives are temporary and we are mortal, God promises is that our mortality will be swallowed up, subsumed by immortality. And that the resurrection of Christ, a historical event, is actually going to be one day our experience. God will raise us from the dead, some to judgment and some to everlasting life. Which way were we going to go? Well, that depends on what we actually do. And what we actually do is determined by what we believe. So let's think hard about what we believe. Let's test our own thoughts. Let's investigate and come to a conclusion. That's what I've done. And that's why I'm a believer. I believe that Jesus Christ is indeed the Son of God. And it's through Him that I can know God. And it's through Him that God has made Himself knowable to every human being on the face of the earth. So I invite you, whoever you are, wherever you are, to walk the same road, to find out who is the real God and follow Him. Because after all, your eternal destiny depends on it. God bless you.